can all do that in 2 minutes. Realizing it or not, 2 minutes is a lot of time, especially when you put yourself to work on a computer. It can definitely take up a lot of many hours of work just for a second. As a good example, 24 frames of a cell goes to 1 second, and 24 frames, it takes many hours just to have 24 frames for 1 second. For 2 minutes now, it's a sequence of months that is going to actually take me to do this animation. But right now I'm in the process of drawing the animation, and that is what I'm following to show you next. Here in animation, we see, here's a good example of how we do animation on a computer. This is an Amiga. We're doing this computer animation through the computer cell animation, which is a program designed specifically for animations. Why? Because you can actually do the cartoon, do it cell by cell, and the same computer would run the program to see exactly how you're doing and making sure every single cell runs into place with each other. As an example here, by working in a cell, specifically this cell, this is cell number 74 out of 111 cells. And the idea behind this cell is, here's a character, and the character is actually within its dimension. Now, here we are going into conflict now because I actually have two drawings in one frame. One drawing itself is a character, as we can see it. The second drawing is actually the background of the drawing character, which actually reflects what dimension the character is in, which is very important. To do this is very hard because you have to keep a focus on exactly the background and the foreground. What I did first, I drew the foreground, I drew the character first, I did 111 cells of the character, and then I went back in to draw the dimensions of the character. So if I wanted a character in three-dimensional design, I had to focus and make sure that everything was within the axis of the computer. Here's my axis mark. It's right here in the middle. And it definitely shows how to measure everything according to your drawing. In this next cell drawing, as a good example, the dimension behind it are circles. Right now it's just seen as circles, which soon is going to be all covered by color and is going to look like this character is going through a tunnel. It's going to give it three-dimensionality. How we actually did this background is we took this circle from the selected list, and with our axis we point it towards the middle, make sure the circle is centered, and then we open the circle. As we open the circle, we notice the circle can get large, can get small, depending on exactly where you want it. Now, to follow a sequence of animation, you have to make sure that you draw, or that everything you draw is close enough in reference to what you have done prior to what you're doing now. So, as an example, our prior drawing, we see the size of this circle is this small. The very next drawing, this is our circle right here, which we have actually managed to incorporate. And it gives us that sense of proportionality according to the drawing. Now, to draw the character, drawing the character is actually just as hard when you have a background also, because you have to focus on giving that character the dimensionality it needs for it to exist. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here. Making those movements so it would be close enough, but you would see a difference of movements. Now I follow with the background again, and I incorporate the circles. Now there's several circles here due to the three dimension of the whole project. And this is pretty much what's going to keep your cartoon moving. It's going to give it that sense of movement into space. Same thing we do with all these others that, as you can see, they've only been character drawings, which will later be amplified into the original dimension it belongs in. Now actually, the guiding keys to all of this cartoon is your keyboard right here. You use a keyboard and you use your mouse is your pencil. You use your mouse to draw. If you need to draw anything here, it definitely serves as a drawing. It is not too hard to draw on a computer, as long as you definitely need some good drawing skills. If you can draw anything from just a regular cartoon and give it that sense of personality, there are many ways you can do that. To show you exactly all what the program involves, it involves camera running. After you have finished doing your drawing, you can run it. And here's how it's seen as an animation. And what the program will do, it will keep running itself as many times as it has to until it gives you that actually of direction of where you're going. It helps you realize how well you have done your work, if it needs some work. Right now these are rough sketches of the whole animation. Later on I would have to actually go back in and clean up the drawing and get rid of some imperfections within the drawing. Then put in the color. The color is a whole different process. For color, what we'd have to do for the color is paint every single one of the cells and its background. By painting the cells, I'm referring first to character. We have to give it different tones of the same color, so we refer to that same object we're actually painting. It takes a lot of good concept of color, and we also have to give it its background. Now here by drawings within the background, as you can see here, there's actually the background and then there's a foreground with the character. By painting the character, it would top the drawing. So the character itself would look like a solid piece of mass going through a tunnel. Whereas right now, it looks like a transparent mass going through a tunnel. And you can see both the tunnel and the character. We can go forward, we can rewind according to definitely how you need to work it. It definitely does help for you to keep a good eye and mind to what you're doing and how proportional everything is. It is very important. It's going to keep it is going to keep the character animated in a sequence without jumps, because what we don't want are jumps. Now here we can see the cartoon over and over in motion. Now I'm going to do a whole that's going to help me in the progress here of my animation. What I'm doing right now, I am putting in the dimensions into it. I'm making sure every single sequence is related. And I'll be drawing right now the background for this cell. To draw the background for this cell, I'm again putting my axis, centering my axis to make sure my circle is within range of the proud one that I drew in the cell. That in 2 minutes. Realizing it or not, 2 minutes is a lot of time, especially when you put yourself to work on a computer. It can definitely take up a lot of many hours of work just for a second. As a good example, 24 24 frames of a cell goes to 1 second, and 24 frames, it takes many, many hours just to have 24 frames for 1 second. For 2 minutes now, it's a sequence of months that is going to actually take me to do this animation. But right now I'm in the process of drawing the animation, and that is what I'm following to show you next. Here in animation, we see, here's a good example of how we do animation on a computer. This is an Amiga.